Do you want to know what one of your favorite keyblades and one of your favorite goddesses have in common, Mr. Pencil? I mean, you wouldn't hear me complaining about it. What, Mr. Knockabout? Why, it's simple. They both have no name. What's up, guys? I love Pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 119 of Four Knights of the which is known as Clash. And though there's some clashing, actually, realistically, there's not much clash. There's a little bit of it. There's a taste of it. There's a whiff of it. Actually, there's a decent amount of clashes. On a scale of clash to clash, I say we're clash. We aren't fully clashing, but we're kind of clashing. We're somewhere in between. But let's not waste any more time. And let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That got the pencil here. And fun fact, I have it on me. I keep it on me at all times. Well, you may be wondering, Mr. Pencil, is that the right blade you're wielding? And you'd be right to question that. So, no. That isn't the right blade. This is. But the blade I wield alongside my sacred blade is not all too inaccurate for this great clash. But enough vagueness, enough niceties. Let's hop into the chapter itself. So, we see on this beautiful cover page 3 super important characters to this chapter. One of which, let's just say one of which is drastically more important than the other. And then another one is also drastically more important than the other. And then the final one, they're so not a character that I keep calling them the name of another not character. You tell me who you think who is. But let's not waste more time. Let's actually hop to the chapter itself. The one thing I do want to admit, I like how admittedly, Tomatul's mask is smiling. His mask is smiling. And, Morlock smiling. But look who isn't smiling. Okay, it's too hot. I will do my best to edit that bad boy out. But it's a little bit too toasty within this humble abode of mine. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into Clash! Clash! So we open up, and we do get to see that Mortlock. Well, we kind of just finished where the last chapter ended off, with Mortlock saying, "Percival of the Four Knights of the Ababalaba, I hereby challenge you to a one-on-one duel." And Percy, being stupid, why would you do, okay, I get it. And then y'all may say it too. Pencil, Percy's 16 physically, probably infinitely old physiologically, or spiritually, but mentally he's like 2. Come on, Pencil, you can't knock him for falling for this. But dog, in the past month, he's had 25 battles, and out of those 25 fights, I'd say a solid all of them have had magic users. And I feel like Percy should be more than aware at this point that he should not risk anything when fighting magic users. Ever. Especially considering, in context, he has no reason to accept this duel. In universe, it's not like he knows Mortlock. I mean, he has a glance of him from over 100 chapters ago at this point. Is it over 100? Well, 119. When did Mortlock show up? Maybe not over 100. I think a little under 100. He has a little glimpse of him from that long ago. But, he doesn't know this is his uncle. Or maybe not his uncle. Weird. He doesn't know that. He has no idea who Mortlock is. Mortlock is just an op. Why would you agree to 1v1 an op? Percy, I know this isn't Jujutsu Kaisen, but you should know better. You should always want to jump. Especially considering you just lost your safety net. Your safety net currently kicked himself off the map. He kicked, admittedly, one of the ops off the map too, but right now you need all the help you can get. And also, Percy, you are one of the 2 healers on the squad. You are one of the 2 white mages. We cannot risk losing one of the white mages. And you may be like, well, Pencil, you're a lot more thematically in tune. Obviously, if a character in a magical manga is asking for a duel, you know it has something to do with them, like enforcing some sort of magical bounds on them. That's just because you've read stories before, Pencil. Percy has no reason to know that. And yes, but still, why challenge him to a one-on-one, or at least accept the one-on-one? Maybe if Percy challenged Ironside, I keep saying Ironside, I was messing that up, even in the live reaction, which you can check out on the Patreon for as low as $1 a month. Or you can remember the channel for as low as $3 a month in order to get the live reaction to that. But regardless of that, dog, you should know better. I don't know. This feels like it is stupid. Like, it is just stupid, but it's Percy, right? Like, I'll just chalk it up to the character being the character on this one and not be like, nettle. I just think it's kind of dumb that he would do this. However, we do get to see that Mortlock, obviously being happy that the conditions for his magical ability were met, is like, how nice to hear. Now, admittedly, I'm already having a critique for Mortlock's magic. Look at how long it's taking to activate. We see that Percy, ignoring Rosebank's warning, by the way. Rosebank came out the clutch. Oh, she only does have one as early as this point. Interesting. I thought she had two. But I'm talking about her hair thing. I don't see her hair thing here either. So I guess it was just a one-off thing. Never noticed that. But with that being the case, Rosebank warned Percy. One of his own ops warned Percy. But then, after realizing that Percy's dumber than a bag of bricks and fell for it anyway, Rosebank proceeds to reach into her cloak and not pull out the spaghetti. Not pull off the Chaos Blicky. She did not whip that out on him. At least not yet. But she pulls out treason number 2. It was already treason to attempt to help Percival. But it was extra treason for her to do this. She drops her helmet and she throws the final piece of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness, the Percival sword, right back to Percy. What? Like, I get it. She obviously likely has developed some sort of feelings for Percy. He's the main character. And Nakaba seems to have I was about to call it a preference. No, it's an affliction. Like, why does everyone have to love the main character? This is something that's consistent across both narratives, too. Like, think about it. Mel has, like, 4 women who love him. And, like, is it 4 or is it 3? I may be tripping. I think it's 3. It's Zaneri, the druid girl. That's actually a goddess in disguise. It's Elizabeth, obviously. And it's Merlin. 2/3 of those women are extremely important for the plot being the way it is. In fact, if you were to remove either of those women from the plot, this series would not exist. So, like, I don't know, Nakaba just loves making everyone love the main character. And, like, he's even got Nazians in on it. Like, I think Percy does have 3 confirmed people who do like him. And, well, maybe you could argue that Rosebanks is childish, or it's not as developed as the other 2, or even as developed as the ones in the original series. It's weird that it's happened twice. Like, Nazians and Rosebank. They spent, like, at least Anne's case, she spent a few weeks with the guy. Nazians also spent a few weeks with the guy. But Rosebank, you met him today. And sure, he saved her life. And obviously, there's probably some sort of, like, subconscious trauma bonding going on there. I highly doubt that's all 100% natural on Rosebank's part. But still, come on now. Come on now. But we do get to see that everyone is shocked and bamboozled the fact that Percy snags the Percival sword right on out of the air. And I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of games Naka was playing with me. I don't know. When do y'all think Mel's gonna get sealed? Because he has to get sealed, right? Like, he has to. I feel like, because he's not gonna get rid of Mel. Like, as much as I would be down, I know it sounds so dark of me, I would be down for Mel to get got. He's not gonna get rid of Mel, right? Like, he's not gonna remove him from the plot. He's gonna seal him at best. That's the main reason you reintroduce the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. But, like, when do y'all think it's going to happen? Because I thought it was going to happen soon after this. But to be fair, Mel is currently looking for Dabuzu for the crew so they can get Sacred Treasures. So maybe once that narrative purpose is fulfilled. But when do you think that's going to happen, though? Like, when do you think? Because he has to be sealed at the latest halfway through the narrative. We have to at least have half a plot without Meliodas. I would think. Or else I feel like the sealing wouldn't have that much of an impact. Like, that's spoilers for a very popular manga, so I won't do it. But to have a sealing matter, I feel like he needs to be sealed for at least like 150 chapters, assuming 4 nights is around the same length. So if you think Mel's going to get sealed, when do you think it's going to happen? Let me know. Do you think it's going to be 10 chapters from now, 20 chapters from now, 50, 100, let me know. I'm putting my, I don't have money, but I'll put my hat in the table on the, what is it called? Like, I'll throw my chip in there and say he's gonna be sealed, assuming the series is around the same length, within the next 100 chapters. I know that sounds like a really far time frame, but we're already 119 chapters deep, and the plot, I mean, it's progressed a lot. Like, we're literally about to enter Camelot, but a lot still needs to happen, to say it lightly, before I believe any actual progress in the Camelot stuff is going to be made. They're not beating Arthur right now, so I feel like there's still a whole bunch of time to cook up a little bit. And who knows? Once again, Seven Deadly Sins was a prequel. It's entirely possible that Four Knights could be much longer. But with that being the case, Percy gets the Percival sword, and we see that Percy naturally asks, not that I'm complaining, because I just did a stupid thing that I could definitely use a sword for, even though I already kind of have one. But why are you giving this back? And that is a good question. Like, I'm not sure. Does he have the sword on his hip? I really don't remember. Doesn't he have a sword lent from Zeldris? Does he not have that on his hip anymore? Let me see. I think that's his sword. Yeah, he has a sword. So, like, I don't know, in the context of the, yeah, he still has a sword here too. So obviously nothing happens there. I don't know. He has the sword here as well. Like, dog. Why it's not like he needed it. Like, even if I'm Rosebank, right? Say that I want Percival to have a fighting chance against Mortlock now that he's sealed his fate against them. I'm not going to give him back the key to our victory. Or not victory. Obviously, the key to victory is the Four Knights, or at least one of them. As long as you get rid of one of them. Which, hey, I know. It's dark. But they had Gawain for a whole week. They easily could have got her got. But, with that being the case, with a major win con, if not a major win con, a major step forward being the sealing, essentially removing Meliodas from the playing field, is inarguably the best thing that Arthur can do right now. Right now. Because sure, Lance is a threat, but Lance is a threat. He doesn't have a weapon. He fought Arthur out of his realm with no Excalibur. Like, obviously, Arthur has more to cook. As much faith as I have in Lance, I do not think he's stronger than Chaos Arthur within Camelot, with Excalibur. I just do not buy it. Especially considering what is set up later on this chapter, and what was kind of hinted at last chapter. Lance may be just a tad bit weaker than I was expecting. But, with that being the case, Rosebank, why? You could have used that. Like, can you imagine the kind of life or praise Arthur would have given you if you brought back the final piece of the coffin? He would have given you a Percy. He would have made you one. Probably like you made Ironside. However, we see, before Mortlock can get all mad about the treason and stuff, he gets slurped up along with Percy. I wonder if Nakaba just drew that. I think it has to. I'm not sure how much, like, digital stuff Nakaba does. But if he just drew it like this is actually hilarious. But we see that Percy gets slurped up into the Shadow Realm. And once again, I mentioned this a little bit, but why is there such a long delay time? He answers it here. Then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 whole panels. And a couple different sentences and reactions before the magic actually kicks in. Is it like Sonic 06? Does it just have bad load times? This magic is whack. Like, imagine against any person. Like, what if you run into someone who just doesn't want to talk to you? Like, say you run into a super angry Mel, a super angry Bond, a super angry Dothan, or any character of any decent speed or strength, or even anyone relative to you. Your magic is just worthless. Absolutely. Your magic relying on the fact that you need to get your opponent to agree to a one-on-one duel in a world of magic where anyone with the IQ higher than a 4-year-old wouldn't just casually answer your questions or even fight you fairly. And then it has a slow startup time. That's a pretty whack magic. I hope. Then again, he says it's my magic, so it's really hard to, like, do some Mortlock hopium and say, oh, well, no, this isn't actually his real magic. It's just some fancy aspect of chaos. However, we do get to see that Percival and Mortlock get sucked into the swirly swirl. And as the gang calls out for Percival! Yeah. they're sealed in another dimension. And we see that Tristan's like, "Nani desu?" They're both gone. And Iso naturally asks the question, well, where did they go? Which is pretty reasonable to ask after one of your white mages gets taken away. I'm sorry. I've been watching a lot of TFS's creator commentary on Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and one of my favorite jokes from the Namek Saga is when Dende gets got by Frieza, and they do like a whole bunch of references like white mage down, out of mana, like that. And thusly that has been sticking in my head for a little bit. So Percy literally being one of two white mages, him getting taken out is pretty darn bad. However, we do get to see in this separate shadow world, it isn't actually that dark, and Percy opens his eyes and is shocked to find a whole statuette of people behind him. And there's some interesting things about this little statuette that I do want to point out. Once again, Varghese is, in fact, the largest. Very, very nice little attention to detail. Percy, even after all this time without Varghese, and by all this time, I mean like a month? How long has it actually been since the series started? I feel like it has not been that long. But obviously, Varghese raised Percival, probably indirectly made Percival into the life spirit human hybrid that he was. So he's going to be at the top. Interesting that the next biggest is Lance. And the reason I say this is because we know he spent multiple years with Zeldris and Gelda. Or maybe not multiple years. He spent an extensive amount of time in the demon world. Presumably long enough that he could put the behemoth to sleep then. And long enough that the whole demon world knows his name and loves Percival. And he's well known enough by the royal family that Zeldris and Gelda straight up consider him a kid. Like, I don't know. If he was there for a month, I feel like they wouldn't have the same amount of reverence that they do for him. Obviously, I get he saved all their lives, but like still, the fact that Zeldris and Gelda, despite probably spending at least similar amounts of time with Percy, to characters like Nasi and Donnie, especially Lance. Like Lance has only recently revealed himself. It would make sense more if like this was like a Sin or Lance hybrid. But interesting that they're so small. But it is nice that they still get to mention Zeldris and Gelda. Then you got Tristan here, a nice little addition. Hold on, let me grab this and pull it extra forward to make sure. Oh wait, yeah, Tristan, nice. I like that Tristan, even after their little squabble when they first met, ended up becoming a good enough friend that he's risen up relatively high in the totem pole. Meliodas, nice that he's mentioned that he's so small. Like he obviously is a decent influence on Percival, but not that big of an influence. This just seems to be a random Holy Knight. If you guys remember who this is, I feel like I've seen this Holy Knight design before, but if you guys remember who this specifically is, please let me know. Hauser being at the bottom is kind of sad for him, but hey, at least he has like a relatively detailed body structure. He still got his musculature, he still got his sword. I find it funny. It's probably because he made Percival the Percival sword that Hauser is the only one in this image that's actually like armed, because that's what Percy mainly knows him for. Isolde gets a nice mention here. Ironically enough, one of the larger, I think the only one with a close to full body outside of Gawain. Very, very interesting. Gawain getting a mention here is very, very nice. Obviously, I love their dynamic, and it seems like Percy loves their dynamic too. Dolcemonte being really, really big is nice, even though realistically, he should be like pretty much the same size as Hauser. Like, how long did they actually spend with Dolcemonte? But I guess Hauser was a lot more inherently antagonistic when they first met. Meanwhile, Dolcemonte was always gang. And obviously, the big three are right here. And I do like how, once again, I guess it makes sense for Lance. If you compile Lance and send him to the same person, then technically Percy has known Lance the longest, so it makes sense why Lance is up the highest. Even though Zeldris and Gelda should be higher by that principle, but whatever. But I like how they're in descending order in terms of who Percy met. Lance is at the top because he met Percy first as Sin, then Donnie, who met him second, then Nasians, who met him third, then Anne, who met him last. Nice little details. And look, even Jade gets a little bit of a reference here, which is nice. It shows that even with their very, very, very limited interactions, Jade did leave enough of an impact on Percy's heart that he would appear in the statue that represents all the people that Percy holds dear. And the funniest thing to me, he may be on the back, he may be super small, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but Kion's nowhere to be found here. Percy's still holding a grudge, and I like that. I like that. Considering we know what this represents now, the fact that Kion isn't there speaks volumes about how Percy sees him. But obviously Percy's like, huh? What's this? And Morlock explains, the monuments behind us both represent what we shoulder. Very interesting that he says what we shoulder, not what we hold dear. And we see that the only person that Morlock not holds dear, but shoulders, is Diodra. Like, literally, that's it. Like, it's not even like we see other statues here. Like, this is only Diodra. The rest are just random amorphous crystal statues. So, you could chalk this up to one of two things. You could chalk it up to Nakaba not wanting to spoil the designs of the rest of Mortlock's crew. You could chalk this up to Nakaba not fully having fleshed out Mortlock's backstory. You could chalk this up to Nakaba just, I don't know, forgetting to draw it because they're not as important as Diodra. But some interesting exceptions that aren't here, or really the interesting exception, is Ironside and Mortlock's sister. Because remember, Ironside, well, I guess that is two. That still is two. But remember, Ironside isn't actually Mortlock's brother. He is Mortlock's brother-in-law. So the fact that Mortlock's sister isn't here is very interesting. He holds Diodra, his sister's son, in very high regard. He shoulders him, but he doesn't shoulder his sister. Intriguing. Very, very intriguing. And this, unlike the rest of the mass Chaos Knights, this can't be chalked up to Nakaba just like not wanting to reveal their design, because we've seen what both of those characters look like without their helmets. The fact that Morlock only shoulders Diodra is very, very interesting for his character. I wonder what that's going to mean in the long run in terms of Morlock and his allegiances, or if Mortlock's even real. Maybe he only has Diodra because he's a construct of Diodra. But I highly doubt that's going way too far. I think he is actually Diodra and Percival's uncle. But regardless, we see that Ironside, I keep saying Ironside, Mortlock reveals that anyone who accepts a duel with me, I take into this dueling chamber. So, this is, once again, Mortlock's magic, as he says, via my magic, known as Duelist. So, that's very, very interesting. Notably, when you look at this chamber, it seems to be in a separate space. The size of the separate space is pretty debatable, though. Like, I have no idea how big it is. So, unfortunately, Uni Mortlock, not a thing. But, still very interesting that he has access to the separate space that follows these very specific properties based on his magic. And we see that Mortlock actually decides to explain the rules. And he says, let me take a sip to make sure I say this properly. Rule 1. One must die or be knocked out before the other can leave. Now, there are two ways to look at this magic. Either one, it's booty meat. Because if all I need to do is knock you out, I don't even actually have to execute you. Seems kind of light. But obviously there's a second rule. And two, I actually think this magic is kind of smart. Because if Mortlock ever activates the magic against someone he doesn't think he can take, all he needs to do is knock himself out and the magic will be undone. The only thing is, though, does that knockout last into the real world? Like, would Percy, say Mortlock wins, right? And knocks out Percy with, like, the butt of his sword. Just boom, knocks Percy out. Would Percy's body just bloop, back out into existence, but knocked out? Or would something else happen? Will Mortlock be able to keep him there or something like that? Because it specifically says knocked out before the other can leave. So, it doesn't imply that the loser actually gets to leave. Only that the other can leave. And it doesn't even, and once again, I'm definitely just reading into this way too much, but he doesn't even say will leave, can leave. Like, you're given the option to stay if you want to. Very, very interesting. But we do get to see that Mortlock is like, well, let me do a little bit more explaining on you, boy. And he runs in, presses Percy, and he and Percy have a little bit of a duel, a little bit of a spat, if you will. And shoutouts to Percy. Sure, he does take a little bit of damage here, but he does take a little bit of a slash. But against Mortlock, a really, really skilled combatant, or at least presumably a really, really skilled combatant, pretty impressive for Mr. 1 week of actual proper training. He managed to get out of that with only one slash. If Mortlock and Ironside are even remotely comparable in terms of swordsmanship skill or anything like that, that's a massive feat of skill for Percy for being able to only take one little slash. And we see as the two return to neutral, Percy notices that obviously he got a little slice on him. And we see that Mortlock reveals the second condition, or the second rule. No magic in this chamber. Only pure fighting ability and force is in play. So, you cannot use magic. Ugh. Oh, that's a dastardly. That's a knowledge of will yourselves. That's a dastardly kind of ability right there. In other series, I'm not sure at all, but like, couldn't Bond just still casually no-sell you? He does not need Snatch to be strong. Couldn't Mel kind of just casually one-tap you? He does not need Snatch to be strong. Like, notably, this would be a fantastic ability against sorcerers like Merlin or Vivian or anyone of that ilk. But against, like, actual fighters? I don't know, Mortlock, you don't look like the biggest dude, bro. Like, Hauser looks physically stronger than you. Gil Thunder may be just about as strong as you. And obviously you have the superhuman deities roaming around calling themselves the Seven Deadly Sins that are an entirely different tier of just raw physical power. And we've seen it. Demons, especially with like Meliodas, they still retain high amounts of their durability while like off guard, depressed. Like, remember when our crazy villain of of Grudge of Edinburgh, Death Pierce, was super duper insanely amped by Breath of Bless, was crazy, had so much slaughtering intent you could feel it on Mars, all that, and he reeled back, he was like, how dare you show your face, you're a demon, yeah! And then his blade just broke against Darier's neck, even though Darier was super off guard and not even paying attention to him. Like, we know base creatures without any magic reinforcement can be super duper strong. So this ability is a little, like, I don't want to call it whack because whack feels too harsh, but it's not the best. Like for a Chaos Knight ability, I'd say it's probably on the lower tier. Because once again, it can't even activate unless your opponent consents to a duel. And 9 out of 10 times, most people just won't do that. Would you? If someone were to, say someone were to ask you, they just walked up on the street, walked up on you, or like, hey, yo, I challenge you to a one-on-one duel. Are you saying yes? Are you even responding? Or are you walking around the weird person that came up to you on the street and asked you for a duel? Me, personally, I ain't responding and I'm walking away the real person who asked me for a duel, even though I have it on me. And I keep it on me at all times. But, I don't know. It's kind of, it's a neat magic in concept, but I feel like it's super selective. Super, like, you have to, a whole bunch of, just a very hard start condition with slow load times makes Duelist pretty whack for a magic. However, away from the whackness of Duelist, Mortlock brings up a very interesting idea. He says, Percival, I know what you really are, and I know the entire story behind your birth. Whoa! Wait a minute. This might take a minute. All my people want work? Let it cook, let it bake a minute. Cook, let it bake a minute. I'm sorry. I was listening to certain things. But with it being the case, interesting. I wonder what birth Mortlock is referring to here. Is he referring to Percival's birth? Like the human vessel that the Life Spirit took up? That's called Percival. Is he referring to the birth of that? Is he referring to the birth of the Life Spirit human hybrid that we currently know now as Percival? Is he even referring to Deodra and how this may be Deodra's body taken away? Like, I don't know. There are questions here. Very, very interesting questions. It's interesting that Mortlock knows it. Very intriguing. But we see, and with this being the case, Mortlock's like, that is why I want you to go away before you become something truly terrifying. So, Mortlock is, once again, not necessarily fighting simply because he does not like Percival. It's out of the fear of the unknown and the fear of the known of what Percy could become if left unchecked. And to be fair, Mortlock kind of has a point here. Sure, Mortlock was not there, so it's like he doesn't know about it. But remember, the last time Percy just went, my friends, you took my You took my friends. You took my friends. He lost it. And he just casually slurped the life right out of Kion's arm and was going for Jade's throat. If Percy were to ever fly off the handle again, with life spirit mode activated, the despair and the death, the true night of death being unleashed, he could wipe out who knows how many people on his own. Especially considering he is much, and I mean much, stronger than he was when he first ran into Tristan over 50 chapters ago at this point. Percival's a monster already. Now imagine all that monstrous power due to Gnossians, Donnie, and Lance, any of them getting hurt, or heaven forbid any of them perishing, and Percy goes berserk. He could be a liability to life as we know it, as a rogue life spirit who subconsciously decides whether or not you do get to do the living, or if you just do not get to do the living. So I can see why Mortlock is concerned, at the very least. That is something that I get. I would even be concerned dealing with something like that, because, once again, it's just volatile. Sure, you would love to have faith. You would love to have faith and hope that, oh, Percy would never do that, even if pushed to the hardest scenarios ever. I don't know. If he's foolish enough to accept a one-on-one duel when he has full capability to jump Mortlock, I feel like he's more than foolish enough, silly enough, and dangerous enough to cause a little bit of havoc. However, we do get to see that Percy says, if you do, then I'm going to make you tell me everything you know. I mean, maybe here, maybe they could fight for a little bit here and Mortlock can exposit some more, but like, Percy, you either get knocked out or got, and then you're freed from there. Actually, if Percy automatically leaves Mortlock's magic once he gets got, I wonder what would happen then. If, say Percy drops, right? Say Mortlock is successful in dropping Percy, even though he knows that technically he shouldn't be able to be, and then Duelist shuts down because the win condition has been met. Would Percy just insta-res and then get stun-locked into another one? Like, obviously Percy would likely say no the second time. I don't think Percy is that gullible, but I wonder if he could just, like, infinite loop it. Probably not. I feel like people in the outside world would intervene. So you probably can't loop it for just endless training, because that would be good. But then again, there's no like time differential here. So if he just were to train with Mortlock for forever, it probably wouldn't work out too well. But we do get to see that back in time, I lied, not back in time, outside of the Duelist mystical magical wonderland, we see that yo, these demons need to hop off his meat. Get off of it. I like Percival as much as the next guy, but come on now, hop off it. But they do say, Percival! And Schwartz says, no, what a blunder. And right before our eyes, too. Darn you, humans. Chaos Knights? Like, you do real, I mean, I guess. But like, what's an equal comparison to why this feels weird? Like, imagine if, because one bird or a group of birds dookied on your car, you now hated every single flying thing ever. Like insects, other types of birds. What's another flying thing? Planes. Like, you just hated everything that was generally within that speech group. And that's basically what Schwartz is saying here. Darn you, humans! Like, dog, they're not just humans. You were working alongside humans. Your savior is a human, as far as you know. Like, dog, come on now. However, we do get to see that I guess Rosebank is just the de facto second in command. Like, why? Like, no one at all is moving on her for her treason. That's what it is. I'm sorry. There's no, hey, enemy, here's this sword that I took from you earlier because you were my enemy. Have fun. Like, you don't do that. Like, unless I'm mistaken, you don't do that. And not get in trouble for treason. But I guess maybe this is just like a high intensity situation. And we see that Rosebank does activate the Chaos Staff. And she declares, Chaos, show us your great ancestral power of creation. I give you these 6 sacrifices. Couple interesting things here. Couple very interesting things here. Number 1, she does not say Chaos Staff. She specifically seems to call out to Chaos on this one. Intriguing. Very, I struck my beard and intrigue. I wonder why. Maybe it's just, once again, a translation thing. But I'm pretty sure every single time a Chaos Staff has been used before, it's been referred to as Chaos Staff. But she just says Chaos. Then, it's interesting that she says, show us your great ancestral power of creation, when she's using 6 sacrifices and fusing them together. Like, is that really a power of creation, or is that more power of reformation? I don't know. Could the Chaos Staff produce something on its own, like the original Chaos can? I don't know. Notably, we've never, I'm trying to think, even in Grudge of Edinburgh, we've never seen a Chaos Staff make something from nothing, like Chaos is said to be able to do. We've only seen them manipulate, fuse, break down, all that good stuff of other matter. For, not Ardbeg. Well, is it Ardbeg? I think for Ardbeg, it was the dog. That's what the Chaos Staff was used for. Actually, no, that was just a song. I forget. Did he? No, actually, I don't think Ardbeg ever uses the Chaos Staff. But I was thinking specifically, Talisker used it to transform Nasian's grandfather. In the movie, we know the creation of the Chaos Staff were born of a sacrifice, such as Death Pierce and or multiple different demons, goddesses, and all that. Not goddesses, demons and other creatures. But nothing, I'm trying to think. Yeah, nothing, no Chaos Staff has ever been used to just make something from nothing, which is very interesting. It's a nice limitation to put on them. Maybe it prevents, maybe it's like a a fail-safe to prevent anyone from using the power of Chaos against the original. But still, you think it would be immediately overwhelmed. However, we do get to see that all the demons suddenly feel, whoa, wrong way, what is, and they just lose their good minds as they go, and they just all lose themselves. And we see that Rosebank raises the staff, and I guess the fusion causes an explosion because it just sends Gawain flying. And once again, why was not a single one of you holding her? She is, even if you aren't going to execute her, you're supposed to take her back to Camelot. That was Morlock's orders. Why was not a single person holding her down, keeping her safe? Or if not safe, at least keep her in your possession. Don't just let her chill around and then get knocked away by a big old chaos blast. Shadow the Hedgehog? But we do get to see that Gawain does actually end up getting caught by none other than the Dawners himself. And we see that he gets praise, which I like. I love how Nasi's like, whoa, way to catch her. Impressive. I like the cut of your jib. And we see that Anne recognizes the technique, though, which is interesting. I don't think she actually saw Meliodas fuse. I don't think anyone did. Did anyone see Meliodas fuse? I don't think so. But I think unintentionally she ends up calling back to Meliodas by saying, she's using that Chaos Staff to fuse those demons into one? Yeah, she is questioning it. So I don't think she's taking a wild guess in the dark, but it's amazing how accurate she is. And we see that Tristan, Isolde, and even Kion are concerned as Tristan declares, oh dear. And from the tendrils of the shadows, and by from the tendrils of the shadows, I mean the shadows and the smog and the smoke, 2 tendrils rise. And hold on. Yes. Hallelujah. Tristan has finally learned to not lunge at things in base. Thank you. Thank you, Naka, but thank you, Tristan. You should have gone further into it, but I will take it. He sees these two things coming to threaten him, and he does not lunge at them to get body bagged in base. He immediately goes into hybrid mode. Hallelujah, y'all. Sweet mother of mercy. I was worried he was just going to get smacked in base again. But I guess since he knows this is the fusion of Schwartz and a whole bunch of demons, he's like, wait, I couldn't even conventionally beat Schwartz. Let me not play these games. And he immediately runs in. Though, ironically enough, is this a weaker form than he used against Schwartz? I forget. I know against EO, he had some of the sparks, some of the demon mark growing out of his eye. But I forget what he used against Schwartz initially. But he does lunge in, and he does knock away both tendrils. But the tendrils simply whirl around and dive elsewhere. And we see that Rosebank is conflicted. As she says, I normally dislike fighting fellow humans, but so be it. Now, show us the power of your chaos. Chaos control! I really want chaos emeralds. Like the real things. Like so if someone could just give me the chaos emeralds, I promise. I'm not Dr. Eggman. I will not build Pencil Land. But like if someone could slide me the 7 chaos emeralds, if only we had them to stop Needle Metal. But like, if someone could just slide me the chaos emeralds. Can you imagine my super form? It would do nothing. Like my hair already stands on edge. It would just become like it would just extend like half an inch higher because it would be perfectly straightened out. But if someone can give me the 7 chaos emeralds, that'd be greatly appreciated. But we do get to see that's interesting. Another one, once again, it's just phrasing and stuff like this, and I'm just extra attuned to stuff like this because I overanalyze everything. Now, show us the power of your chaos. Almighty Testament Beast. A couple interesting things here. One, she specifically says your chaos. So I'm English. I assume the magic of the chaos staff is now infused into this creature. Interesting. But I guess that does. But then again, we've seen the staves can exist even without the others there, or even without the power not being used and just being stored in the staff. So it's interesting that she says, show us the power of your chaos. And also, she already has a name for it. Almighty Testament Beast. Now, we did have the 10 Commandments, and we did have the 6 Knights of Black. So are these the 6 Testaments? If so, they make a really fire-fused theme. I really like this design. Honestly, the only thing I would change about this design, even though I do believe it is integral and conveys an important part of the design, get rid of the tiger. I don't know. Everything, like, if I were to let me just squint at it to where I can't even see the tiger face. Like, this design is just fire, especially in comparison to that. That disgusting mess we got in Grudge of Edinburgh Part 2. But like the 2 tails coming out of it, the sharp tips, the flowing angelic hair, it almost looks statuesque. The face on top, the bulging musculature, except the skinny limbs connecting them, the gigantic blade. Even the spikes that adorn the entire body, like, it's just a really cool design. Does it have aspects of every single one of the Black Knights of Six or the 6 Testaments? Not really. There's none of Galen's nephew in there, like, at all. There's none to be seen. But still, actually, no. Was Galen's nephew part of this group? I think so, yeah. There was a variation of him. So he's missing, but, like, it took the coolest aspects of all the designs. And I can get over the tiger face. The tiger face, it would even be cool if, like, that was the real face and this was more a false face. Like, something that couldn't even, like, move or speak. It's kind of like how peacocks have their feathering on their back that makes it look like there's a bunch of different eyes watching you when it really isn't. That would be interesting, that this was the actual head where the brain is and all that stuff is stored. And this one's kind of just like a really fancy and ornate horn. But we do get to see that the rest of the Chaos Knights, I guess, do not care about treason and leave Rosebank absolutely alone. And we finally cut away from even the Almighty Testament Beast to what y'all may have been waiting for. So, remember, in the last chapter, Lancelot tried to low diff Tomatul. But Tomatul revealed that he is, in fact, not that easy. And grabbed Lancelot by the ankle, so when Lancelot's force impacted Tomatul, they both went flying. And we see that they come in, and they're coming in hot. And Tomatul does immediately recover, digs their feet into the ground, and slides to a stop. And we see The armor, seemingly enough, pulls backwards to fully stand up, but immediately gets pierced by 3 arrows. So, Lance playing no games. Though admittedly, it seems like he's playing games. I don't know. Like, in universe, I don't know. I tried to think of it between the live reaction, which you can check out on Patreon for as low as $1 a month, or become a member for as low as $3 a month. You can check it out by becoming a member. Thank you. I tried in between the live reaction and this to figure out why he would go into fairy form here, but I still have no idea. Like, if you wanted to do actual damage, why would you go into a physically smaller and presumably weaker form? I don't know. I don't know. It just feels weird. It feels a little bit off. But we see. I mean, well, here's the thing. Outside of narrative, I get it. Grudge of Edinburgh Part 2 just recently came out. This is the prominent form that was featured in that movie. A little bit of cross promotion. But, I don't know. Still feels a little bit weird in the universe. But we see that Tamato's armor is actually empty. And the 3 arrows built in simply cause it to clamber down to the ground. And Lance says, whatever. It's fine by me. That armor just hinders you anyway, doesn't it? Very interesting. Why does he wear it then? Is it just Arthur's request? I wonder why he wears it then, if it's supposed to be so important. Like, once again, this goes to like an in-universe thing. Out of universe, I get why the armor's worn. In a similar way to out of universe, I get why Lance is in Chunkadunka fairy form. But in universe, why does Tamato wear the armor? In universe, why did he change his name again? In universe, like, once again, this moment is only a moment if you know. I mean, I guess maybe because what he says at the end of the chapter, it becomes a moment. But this moment is only a moment if you've read Seven Deadly Sins. And even then, you have to go like deep. Like, Nanashi has a total of like 4 appearances. 1 in the Vizel Fighting Festival arc when he sliced the Sand Eater in half. 2, I think he makes another appearance later on in that arc, but he doesn't actually do anything. 3, I think he's seen alongside Arthur, or at least the other citizens of Camelot when they're evacuating. And then 4, I think when he's hanging out with Orlandi, we get the reveal that Nanashi was once a goddess. But like, if you're a 4 Knights reader, you're just looking like, who is he? Who is he? And remember, and you know, this calls back. It's not the exact same sword Nanashi has, but let's just say Nanashi just like me, for real, for real. We keep it on us. But we see. I already kind of spoiled who it is, but I'll still play it. So, you're Lancelot, the one who defeated my master. Very weird. I want to see what the volume says on that one. Because as big as an Omega Lance stan as I am, I wouldn't come out here claiming he beat Arthur. Like, I wouldn't say, I mean, I guess you could say he was styling on Arthur for a bit, but like before the fight could really get going, before either could get 100% serious, I wouldn't, like, I didn't hear no bell, essentially. I didn't hear no bell when Lance was fighting Arthur. Sure, he put Arthur on his back after Arthur talked smack, but still, I wouldn't say that was a defeat. Interesting that Nanashi views it that way. But he says, I could tell by the moment you parried my strike. And what's more, I can tell you're not seriously trying at all. So, very, very, oh, well, I guess I can read the next panel too, because that brings up an interesting point. Yeah, you too. So, what's your name? So, both Nanashi and Lance are holding back. Now, it's unsure if Nanashi was holding back against the Black Knights of Six or the Six Testaments, and then he got the Archangel statement, or if he went all out against them and then gets the Archangel statement. But if a casual suppressed Nanashi is already Archangel level, it could get tragic. New panic. You know, it could be automatic. Like, that's a little bit crazy for his raw levels of power. Though admittedly, unless full power Lance, or even casual base Lance comes in and wipes Nanashi, it's a little, that ain't good for Lance's scaling. Like Archangel tier, you may be like, Pencil, why is that not good for Lance's scaling? Archangel tier in Summonly Sins is fantastic. It is, but not for Lance. That would actually be downscaling for him. You consistently hear Lancelot being argued amongst the tiers of like Endgame, Seven Deadly Sins, the deities, and stuff like that. But if he really is only Archangel level, he's a fraction of the deities. But we'll see how that goes. However, we do get to see that Nanashi explains, some call me Tamatu, but I abandoned my real name along with the master I once served. So, Master, presumably the supreme deity. I have no idea who else this would be, considering he is still serving Arthur. Interesting. But we do get to see that the man, the myth, the legend is here. You may call me Nanashi, or no name. That's what fits me the most. Interesting. So Nanashi was in fact Tamatu. A lot of people did call this. A lot of people flat out did call this from the moment Tamatu was introduced. That he was too strong, he was too fast, he was too powerful. No way Nakaba was just going to introduce another goddess of this caliber and not make it like Nanashi or Mael or some crazy reveal. And admittedly, maybe I was just not even a maybe. I was just huffing copium. I was hoping it wouldn't be Nanashi because I wanted Nanashi to be saved for later. Like, remember, in terms of all of Arthur's old series associates of any high level of power, Merlin's gone, and all that leaves is Nanashi. So I was hoping Nanashi would get saved for later, not dropped in the early 100s. But hey, I highly doubt Nanashi is going to be taken out this soon. So I suppose the more screen time we get with one of the most interesting yet most vague characters in the original Seven Deadly Sins is good. And I admit I do like his design here. Though it does seem like Nakaba... It's just this image. It's the way his head is shaped there. It feels a little bit off in this image. It's still a cool one-panel spread. Or not one-panel spread. It's a cool one-page. But it's something about his head seems a little bit off here. Though, I wonder. This is a question for any of you guys who... I wonder if my comment section even has any of y'all. But, question for anyone who read 4 Nights only and doesn't know anything about Seven Deadly Sins. What does this mean to you? Are y'all just interested? Are y'all hyped? Are y'all... intrigued? What's the general consensus behind the Nanashi reveal? I'm very intrigued. Though once again, I bring up the fact that in universe, there's no reason for Nanashi to hide his identity. It is specifically for readers who read Seven Deadly Sins. It's not even, once again, I don't think it's for readers who have just read 4 Nights, because this means nothing to you. So it is specifically for readers who read Seven Deadly Sins, so we could lose our minds over this. And mine was indeed lost in the live reaction over on Patreon. If you become a member. But we do get to see that Lance simply laughs. He says, fighting you ought to be fun. Interesting. So he thinks that Nanashi would actually provide him a good fight. Once again, a little bit of anti-skill for Lance, but this could just be like base mega omega suppressed Lance. And obviously he doesn't have a weapon. So like him fighting a sword fighter at all in base is still very, very impressive. And we see that Nanashi gives us a little bit of his backstory. Nanashi, sword instructor for my master, Arthur. Wait. Prepare to battle me. So Nanashi was, once again, Arthur's sword instructor. Very, very interesting. I wonder where Nanashi learned his stuff, though. Notably, there's no one else like Nanashi in the series. There's no other people that seem to be from North Asia at all. This seems to be a very English-based series, and Nanashi very specifically stands out for his utilization of a katana in medieval times. So I wonder if we're ever going to explore the world where Nanashi traveled to and came back from, considering the world is pretty darn big. But we do get to see that all the clashes are properly set up now. Last chapter was called Battle Trigger because the battles did get triggered, but Clash truly sets up everything. Mortlock versus Percival in a battle of pure strength. The crew, the gang versus the Testament Beast. Tristan is already revved up, both blades drawn. I'm excited to see him get to work. He's probably going to be the main... I think he has to be the hard carry, because Gawain is still bound. So, unfortunately, he's going to have to hard carry on his own. There's not a single other knight to back him up. Very intrigued to get Very intrigued to see Tristan get his run back on Schwartz, even if indirectly, because Schwartz just fused into a bunch of different people. And finally, we have Lance versus Nanashi. Nanashi goes to hover his hand over his blade, but Lance just takes up a fighting stance. So, Yeah, the chapter's worthy. Why? I think it's mainly because it's a setup chapter that does a lot of interesting setup. First, we open up with a bunch of character stuff, which is really, really nice. Even if I do find some of the character stuff stupid, further characterization for Percival as a naive fool is always nice. Seeing Rosebank go full into the treason, like no care at all, is also very, very interesting. I wonder how that plot line is going to conclude. Percy getting the Percival sword back. Once again, I feel this is more foreshadowing for Meliodas getting sealed anyway somehow, but still it's nice to have it back. Getting the establishment of who Percy cares about and the establishment of Warlock's magic and Duelist is very, very nice. Seeing a little bit more of the true, or I suppose hidden Mortlock, the one that only cares for Deodra. Very, very interesting. And obviously, setting up the duel between these two is nice. Then the Testament Beast. Realistically, I could not care less about any of the Gas Knights, even Rosebank. But the Testament Beast is a very interesting design. I'm interested to see how Tristan in particular deals with it, now that he knows not to run up in base on absolute monsters. And finally, Nanashi versus Lance. This is going to be a very interesting battle. I feel like this is going to do a lot for Lance's scaling because it's very, very vague right now. At the same time, Nanashi's scaling is very, very vague right now. We just have the general idea that he's Archangel tier. So, overall, a super duper W chapter, and I'm very excited to see where Nakaba takes us next. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. And also, become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, thank you guys so much for watching once again, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dagger the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean Gray, Red Wolf 4765, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, Demix LND, and Artgoon. I'd like to give another super big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And a final very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give a very, very big thank you to our $25 patron, Igneo Lynn.